Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast from Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community, and we refer to the daily Bible reading as our spiritual manna. It nourishes our souls, fostering spiritual growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. Today is Tuesday, October the 7th, 2025, in the 17th week after Pentecost during this season of ordinary time. This is a time for us to live an extraordinary disciplined life as we grow spiritually. The lectionary reading comes from the book of Psalms in the Old Testament. It is the third psalm, a poem made up of 8 verses. The author of this poem is King David, and it is titled A Psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. Absalom was David's favorite son. He wanted to overthrow his father, and he named himself as king. He was gaining the loyalty of the people of Israel against his father, and he believed he had made a significant breakthrough when one of David's inner circle advisors defected to his side, giving him valuable insight into the strategy for achieving his goal. King David was heartbroken and hesitated to face Absalom. So, in the dead of night, he left his palace and fled to the desert with a few of his loyal followers. It was there in the desert, David, with raw expressions of despair, cried out to the Lord that his enemies had increased and were against him. They said that there is no salvation for David from God. But David cried out in the desert that yes, there is salvation for him in God. He reminded himself that the Lord is a shield around him. His enemies were rising against him, but he asked the Lord to lift up his head as he cried out loudly to him. David was confident that God was a prayer hearing God, and in the silence of hearing only his own breath, he felt that God had answered him from God's holy mountain. Exhausted, David lay down and fell asleep. In the morning, upon wakening, he praised the Lord for protecting him through the night. He was filled with renewed vigor, telling himself he would not be afraid, even if 10,000 people were against him and had encircled him. David will pray to the Lord to rise up against those opposing him, and he asks the Lord to save him. It did not matter that his enemies claimed there was no salvation for him in God. Neither his son nor the enemies with him will be saved by the advice given to them by David's now defected advisor. David states clearly, salvation belongs to the Lord. Deliverance can only come from the Lord, and David's only hope is in the Lord. His enemies spoke against him with words, but David declares that the Lord has broken their teeth, leaving them toothless and unable to devour him. David ends the poem by pronouncing a blessing upon the Lord's people. This poem, with its raw expression of despair and lament, can inspire us when we feel betrayed by those we trust. David is the example we can follow, and we can call out in prayer, knowing God will hear and answer us.